Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the F-100 Super Sabre. Now it is worth noting that all of the footage you see in this video was taken on the second dev server for War Thunder update 1.85, which does of course mean that all of the stats and the flight performance of the aircraft is subject to change before the update is released. Of course it might not change, but it is something that could possibly happen. So it is of course worth just noting and keeping in mind that, you know, it could change. So just keep that in mind. But now that I've said that, let's get straight in and start talking about this aircraft. Now, before we get into the first game, a few things I want to note. Since the first dev server into the second one, the performance has slightly improved. The climb rate's a bit better. The general speed, performance, and acceleration is slightly improved. And in terms of comparing it to the MiG-19, it has more guns and more missiles. It is twice the amount of each. But it doesn't specifically mean they're better. They are slightly smaller caliber guns. These are 20mm revolver cannons, very similar to the ones found on the F-2 Sabre. Now, to start off with a first game, where we're just flying along at a decent altitude. I've got my squad mate below me, and I'm just really looking out for him, making sure I can keep him safe. And, you know, I look down, it appears there's a MiG-19 getting rather close, so I decided to dive in and see what I can do. Now, my crew is aced on the dev server. This is an aced crew. And, you know, this kill I was pretty happy with. Basically, I pull down behind him, he pulls around, and, yeah, flies right into my guns, effectively. And as you can see, those 420mm revolver cannons, they rip things to shreds. Very high rate of fire, very high shell velocity. So, you know, you don't need to put much lead on targets, really, which is a big difference to the MiG-19. With that, you have to put a massive amount of lead on those 30mm cannons. With this, not much lead at all. Very user-friendly aircraft, I would say, is a simple way to explain it. It is very easy to use. The one thing that isn't so easy to use is, for one major thing, landing. This thing does not like landing, especially when you're on maps like this map, where, well, the runways aren't that long. They're effectively prop aircraft runways, and you're trying to land this thing where it's not going to stop. You have to land at your stall speed, and you have to skid the thing a lot to actually get it to stop in time. So I am hoping that Gaijin implement more bigger modern airfields, like the one that we've seen on the Vietnam air map, to current maps, to at least give these tier 6s a chance of being able to stop before the end of the runway. And as you can see, my squad mate has, well, lost his wing, and obviously you're not going to recover from that, so, you know, it's my turn to take down this MiG-19. I did already try shooting at him and firing a missile. Unfortunately, the shooting I missed, and the missile, of course, they're not the most accurate things. You do need to be in a good situation, effectively. If the enemy aircraft is flying, if the enemy aircraft turns a lot, like they have just there, the missile is going to miss. But luckily, I am able to get a very nice shot. So I fire the missile, he does turn a little bit, but luckily he's in my missile's path, and kaboom, there we go. And as far as that game goes, that was the last enemy aircraft. So, you know, first game of this video, you know, 2 MiG-19 kills, one of which was a gun kill, one of which was a missile kill, does go to show that the performance of this aircraft is not as bad as some may make it out to be. But anyway, the next game, you know, it's a bit of a better show of more defensive playstyle. So this game, I am trying to make it back to my airfield while also dodging many enemy fighters. I made the mistake in this game of taking the minimum fuel load of around 15 minutes, but I was also using Afterburner for effectively the whole game. And when you use Afterburner with a 15-minute fuel load, it actually only gives you about 7 minutes of flight time, so not so good. Now, as you can see, I am trying to fire some missiles at an enemy aircraft, but as I said before, any small movement from the enemy aircraft makes it near impossible for your missile to actually hit. So I begin to just head straight back towards my airfield while keeping an eye out for other enemies, because of course, the MiG can catch you. If you saw my MiG-19 video that I posted earlier today, you will know that there was a few clips in there where I did chase down an F-100. The F-100 has very good low-speed acceleration, but once it gets to the higher speeds at lower altitude, the MiG has got better acceleration in that sort of area. But as you saw there, I was beginning to get the shockwave at low levels, so not too bad. So I'm pulling up and chasing this MiG, and, you know, my squad mate's behind me being chased by another MiG. And that's the point where I realize I can either continue on this guy, or I can drop down and hopefully not get killed by the other guy. Because I was really being baited into a very bad situation. So I begin to drop down, gain my speed again, and you know what? I'm going to try a head-on. I have very high shell velocity. The other MiG does not, so I fire the shot, and luckily he misses me. And as you can see, we fired at basically the same time, and yet my rounds got to him before he's got to me. That is a great advantage of having these higher velocity 20mm revolver cannons compared to the MiG's 30mm cannons, which, like the German guns on the 262s and the Ho 229s, they have very low shell velocity, which means you have to put a lot of lead on your targets and all that sort of stuff. And as you can see, my fuel is running dangerously low, so I begin to slow down. I open the air brake, rather big air brake, but of course, fairly obviously, it's a big, heavy aircraft, and if you're going at high speed, you're going to need a big air brake to stop it. But still, there's only a few enemies left. I'm sort of just doing turns and stuff, and you're about to see what you have to do to land this thing. Another F-100 has already crashed this game attempting to land on this runway. So I put the gear down, get the flaps down into landing. I wouldn't want to land with the air brake down. I find if you have the air brake down, it does actually cause some instability. With the air brake up, it's a bit more stable and easy to control. But I have seconds left on the clock for this aircraft's fuel, so I start firing the guns. I just want to get the speed down. Keep it just above the stall, though, because obviously if you stall, you're going to destroy your landing gear, and then you're probably going to die. Touchdown, and I just spam the guns. I'm just firing the guns. I'm out of ammunition now, so it's just skidding. And as you can see, it is trying to lift off the ground, but if you brake, you skid, you should stop just in time. And this runway, way too small for an F-100, but as you can see, I was able to stop with plenty of distance left, which gives me time to rearm. And now that I have rearmed, I went back out, and, you know, there's one last enemy, one MiG-19, who had fired a rocket at me. Luckily, I'm able to dodge it fairly effectively, but that does mean that he is now pulling up on me due to the amount of speed I lost. And, you know, I don't get the kill for him, but the way that I get rid of him, I found it rather funny. Effectively, he comes in, I do a sharp maneuver, and he rips his wing off. Yeah, so there you go, he rips his wing off, which I don't really understand how he did. I know he was going fast, but he must have pulled a really tight bloody turn to actually rip his wing off there, which I do find rather humorous, because when I was flying the MiG-19, I never saw any low altitude situations like that caused me to even get anywhere near ripping my wing off, so I have no idea what he did, but obviously it was something fairly catastrophic. But now that we've finished that game, that is another game where I killed a player aircraft, another MiG-19, which again goes to show this thing can hold its own against the MiG, despite the MiG having far superior performance. But nonetheless, a decent game there that did demonstrate one or two things you should probably know about the aircraft, including the landing distance and sort of how to play defensively with the aircraft. So next up we have a game where mostly it's fighting bots. We start off killing this Tu-2, who obviously didn't have a very good day. You know, a few 20mm cannon rounds going through his aircraft did spoil his day just a little bit. And you know what, that was a decent start to the game. Did demonstrate the gun's power yet again. Very powerful guns, and the velocity is very nice. Next up we have an air-to-air missile kill. Very satisfying, at least for me, when I do get an air-to-air missile kill, just because of how often they miss or just don't hit the target for whatever reason. But you know, when you do get a pretty cool kill, it is fairly satisfying. For example here, one hit, he is instantly destroyed, and that was a player in the MiG-17, so, you know, a little bit of seal clubbing there, but not too much. And you know what, pretty decent there. Next up we have another bot kill going for, you know, it's a propeller sort of, it's a prop powered fighter, little Russian boy. So I do move in. I was initially going to try and get a heat lock on him, but you know what, I thought, nah, just use the guns. Bit more fun with the guns in my opinion. Move in. Once I get close enough, few shots off, decent lead, and he becomes a fiery mass of destruction, which, you know, is pretty good. And then I finish off this game with the good bacon gaming tactic of running out of fuel, which in the tier 6 jets, I think majority of the dev server games I did in these jets, being the MiG-19 and the F-100, I ran out of fuel before getting back to the airfield. The game did end before I could return to the airfield, but I think I would have made it anyway, because both of them seem, as long as you keep the speed up, they seem to glide quite well. Anyway though, that is where I'm going to end the video. A few games there that roughly demonstrate how the F-100 was performing on the second dev server. We don't really know yet if the exact performance is going to carry over to the live server, but I presume it'll be something fairly similar. A lot of people have been saying the performance is off and it should be far better climb rate, all of that sort of stuff. To be perfectly honest, it probably is wrong. If they improve it, that's great. Even if they don't, though, it can still hold its own. It's a perfectly well-performing airplane, so I don't see a massive issue with it staying as it is now, although, of course, the better thing to do would be to actually improve it to its historical values, like the Gloucester Javelin. Anyway though, thanks a lot for watching the video. If you did enjoy, please consider smashing that like button. Maybe even subscribe to the channel. If you do, that would be massively appreciated. There are links in the description to my War Thunder Live profile, my Patreon page, as well as my Discord server invite link, so do give all of them a look. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.